The View gets riled over Carson's comments on the role of public housing, blaming poor people for being poor. HUD Secretary Ben Carson launched a firestorm of protest this week when he said that although public housing serves a valuable purpose, it should only serve as a respite for those who can work to own their own homes. Antagonism was particularly strong on The View, where Whoopi Goldberg was incensed at Carson's comments. "We are talking about incentivizing those who help themselves," Carson said, summarizing his self-help philosophy. Ben Carson, too much government assistance leads to too much dependence. Ben Carson, too much government assistance leads to too much dependence. Ben Carson does not want to make low-income housing too comfortable for everyone who qualifies, according to the New York Times. Carson said public housing should offer the basics, but not, quote, a comfortable setting that would make somebody want to say, "I'll just stay here, they will take care of me." Carson said public housing was essential for those in need, but those who can do better should be inspired to do so. "We have some people who are mentally ill. We have some elderly and disabled people. We can't expect, in many cases, those people to do a great deal to take care of themselves," he said. "There is another group of people who are able-bodied individuals, and I think we do those people a great disservice when we simply maintain them," he said. Carson's self-help position was not what the ladies of The View wanted to hear. So kids born into poverty should be penalized and the government should provide less comfortable places for them to live? "I'm sickened," tweeted co-host Sunny Hostin. "No one has a way with words quite like our new housing secretary, Dr. Ben Carson," Goldberg said. "It just feels, Ben, like you're kind of blaming poor people for being poor. You think poor people want to stay in the housing? Because I gotta tell you, all I could think of was how to get the hell out of there," said Goldberg, who once lived in a public housing project in New York City. "It was like what they're saying is, if you help poor people, they'll develop dependency," said co-host Joy Bayer. Let's take a listen here.
No one has a way with words quite like our new housing secretary, Dr. Ben Carson. He recently toured housing facilities for the poor in Ohio and said that you can't make these places too comfortable, because then people will want to say, "I'll just stay here. They'll take care of me." It just feels, Ben, like you're kind of blaming poor people for being poor. Yeah. You think poor people want to stay in the housing? Because I gotta tell you, all I could think of was how to get the hell out of there. Yeah. And I lived in fairly good housing that is still there, that I'm proud of, in the middle of Manhattan. Yeah. You know, everybody is aspirational. People are trying to get out. Why are you making it harder?
Exactly. You know what interests me about this particular type of policy? It's like what they're saying is if you help poor people, will develop dependency. That's what they're basically saying.
Well, that's the language they used for people who were on welfare, forgetting that nobody wants to stay on welfare. Nobody ever wanted to stay on welfare.
The idea is that you give something and people will become dependent.
Well, no,
but it does not ever apply to rich people, such as Donald Trump, who got, I believe, $14 million from his father. Mm-hmm. And no one ever says, "Gee, how dependent is he on that $14 million?"
Because no, it actually isn't, because he got that from his father. The point that they're always trying to make is, see, everybody, they're living off you. Yeah. They're just sucking stuff off of you. And this is a lie that they perpetuated with young women who were getting pregnant when they were getting pregnant, people on welfare. you stop slashing jobs or ways to get jobs, maybe that would help. Or maybe if you didn't make people feel like they hadn't put anything in the past, because people who work, you know, you put money into the government, you put money, you pay your taxes, and that's what it's there for.
Sadly, there are people that are going to always be in public housing, and some of these groups are people like mentally ill, who we close state-run mental hospitals.
That's no way to talk about me.
But they don't have a place to go. We have short-term facilities, we don't have long-term. There are people here that you're taking for granted when you make statements like that. They may always depend on these places.
What was upsetting to me is that he is supposed to be, you know, the HUD secretary, so he's someone that is supposed to have done his research, and what he should know is
You're
that...
assuming there's research?
I'm assuming that, and what he should know is that 31% of the people that are in public housing are our elderly, that rely on that. Another significant part are children, and so what he's saying is that the elderly shouldn't be put in places that are too comfortable. And I was so sickened.
Shouldn't have TVs.
How
would we know about that?
I think we have to explain it though, because Republicans oftentimes jump in and they separate the mentally ill, they separate the elderly, and they say, oh no, we're talking about able-bodied people. And I'm here to inform them there are also able-bodied people who've been dealt a rough lot in life, and they too need public assistance. Now, if Republicans were smart, why not come in and say, acknowledge that there are people that need this? Let's pair it with opportunity programs to get those people out there where they have internship opportunities, where they have job opportunities.
That's what the Obama administration did.
Well, that's right, but you know what? That role of government is something that I can support, because that's giving people a sense of self and saying, you know what, I can do this, and turning them out into that workforce where they're going to have an opportunity to fulfill
what
their
you're talking
potential.
about basically is investing in people.
That's
and
right.
the Republican Party right now is not interested in investing in people. They seem to want to starve the poor and starve the beast so that everybody has to pick themselves up.
Not all Republicans and not all conservatives.
I'm not talking about all Republicans here.
Right.
I'm talking about the policies of the Republican Party at the moment. Let me be specific, okay? And I think that that's what they are interested in. Tax cuts at the very top and no concern for people at the bottom. And they just want to starve these people out.
No, I think there's a disconnect. I think that many Republicans are interested in job growth and are interested in keeping those taxes low at the top, because they want those job creators to also flood that money back into the economy and hire people and all of that. And that's fine. No, but you can have, what I'm saying is you can have that argument, and you can also say, okay, but we're missing a whole bunch of people over here as well who need assistance and who also need that incentive and need that help to get out there and become members of this society.
Where are these warm-hearted Republicans?
I'm not a Republican, but I'm not warm-hearted.
Where are they?
I'll tell you what, they are.
Republican. Why are you defending
No,
them?
because I'm a conservative. I'm a conservative.
Well, where are these warm-hearted conservatives?
Yeah.
Why don't they speak up?
Some of them have spoken up. A couple of them. Well, listen, not enough of anybody has spoken up. Nobody's saying jack. If you ask me.
Every time.
But one of the reasons that nobody says anything on the other side is if they actually solve this problem, they'd have nothing to bitch about.
Every time on CNN they say, well, this topic is on both sides of the aisle. And then they drag out Senator McCain. He's the only one who speaks against the party.
Well, the two ladies, I will say those two women.
I don't hear from her lately.
I mean, there are
But they are there, and so what we got to do is support the ones that actually are doing something and force the people who we know who should be supporting them, saying, hey, we got your back on this because you're right. But that doesn't exist there, and that's the problem. That's the way. It would be better. Come on, John, let's go to Washington, damn it. Let's just go over and fix it all.
Now they tried to change the ACA by making it even harsher for poor people. That was the freedom clause, so-called freedom clause, freedom to be.
We're going to be all over this topic tomorrow, actually, as the bill to repeal and replace Obamacare again. That is up for a vote in just a couple hours from now. And what I think we're going to say to folks is we're imploring you to watch and hold your local representatives responsible for whatever ballot they cast today. Because you know what? Everybody is not as well off as we are. Everybody doesn't live in a city where we have a lot of protections. But the places that they're not protected, where they should be protected, we have to make sure that they're getting what they're supposed to get, regardless of what they've to a hospital, you know, a gentleman said yesterday, you know, well, there are plenty of places, emergency rooms will take children. They were talking about Jimmy Kimmel's baby.
Yeah.
And they said, well, emergency rooms have to take children. And I thought to myself, but that was the issue. That's why we were putting together something that would allow people not to have to take up all that time in the emergency room.
And who pays for emergency rooms?
That's where it is. That's what. So we need to keep an eye on this because this really does affect everybody. It really does. You may not need it today, but you may need it in a year from now. And if you don't have it, you're going to be mad as hell. We'll be right back.
Well, let us know what you think in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.